going on, everybody? Welcome into The Highlight, a business podcast for business people that are only the most serious of all time ever. And, I wish you were here for the pre-chat because I've got another serious guy on the line here. Obviously, we're not laughing. We're not talking barbecue shop. We're not coming up with business ideas before this show even starts, but here we are. I got Jeremy Delk today, investor, entrepreneur, author. We're going to get into all of it. Man, Jeremy, thanks for joining me on the show.
No, happy to be here.
Yeah, man. We've been connected for a while, and you were saying that you used to come in and eat our barbecue a little bit, and I wish we'd have gotten to know each other a little bit more just based on our brief friendship here in 2023. But I'd love for you to take a second and just fill everybody in a little bit on your background, and then we'll get into this thing. Yeah,
I mean, I'm a small town kid from Bardstown, Kentucky. So about an hour. I know you're in Nashville now. So about an hour south of Lexington, so bourbon capital of the world, and grew up that relatively blue collar, normal family, middle class, but I always had this dream of kind of wanting to kind of go and do more, see more, and be more. And for me, I think a big part of that was New York. I think, right, like you see movies as a kid, like the biggest part, like Sinatra said, right, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So I didn't know how I'd get there, but that was always a dream of mine and a passion. So yeah, I ended up going to school in the Northeast in Providence, Rhode Island, and day traded. Started day trading at 18. That's a good story. I took my dad died when I was about 7 in a motorbike accident, and I came into around a $30,000 inheritance when I was 18. So of course I just cashed out all the fucking Disney and mutual fund crap that my mother had safely put me into, and started day trading, and day traded in about 2 years. I was almost 19, almost 20. I built it to about $2 million portfolio, which was pretty cool. The cooler part was
that's definitely not the story we usually hear from a day trader. When you
it's not over yet. The story's not over. Okay. So I built it up in 2 years. I blew it up in 4 days. So that was cool. That was actually not cool, but it was retrospectively, at the moment, it's fucking horrible. Retrospectively, is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. From so many lessons, right, that I took away from that. But again, I just shameless plug here. I wrote a book called Without a Plan, and it's the last 20 years of my career and that whole thesis. But through me losing $2 million in 4 days and getting odd jobs at Abercrombie, to mowing grass at a place that I lasted a week on, packing trucks at UPS for 2 nights, I ended up hustling and renting apartments near the condo that I had acquired, as every freshman in college does. And yeah, by happenstance, started having a conversation and landed a job with a small little firm in Boston called Fidelity Investments. I was the youngest institutional equity trader. I still say ever, definitely at the time I was. You got to be 18 to be licensed, Series 7 and 63. So maybe someone beat me by 18 months, but I don't know. But at the time I was the youngest guy, and that led me to New York. So I ended up being a trader on Wall Street, again, without a plan, not knowing how I would get there. But yeah, that's me. First 20 years of my life, successful trader, pretty successful career at Fidelity, but short-lived. About 22, I've got this, ever yearning desire to kind of create, build, and just learn. I'm very inquisitive. So I had all these ideas at Fidelity. You hear how I speak. I don't sound like I'm fucking from Kentucky, right? I sound more like a New Yorker, and that wasn't because I want to be cool, because I'm not. But what I wanted to do is be heard, and I would come up with all these ideas, and some of them were good. Some of them were fucking stupid, I'm sure, but like I felt like some of them were good. And no matter what, like I said, turn water into wine. At the end, I started doing shit. I started just making up shit that there's no way it's even possible, but like, how can they knock me back? And I started to like adapt my language. Like maybe it's my ideas are good, but they're getting lost in like the language. But ended up going out on my own and starting Delk Enterprises, which is small little started as a, startup, doing some real estate development, and now it's been diversified for the last 20 something years. And, we mainly venture capital, do a lot of startup stuff, and have everything from manufacturing to healthcare to tech. We just was in Dallas and so we're making an acquisition in AI because that's, I think the new frontier. So, very, very, crooked, windy path of where I ended up. But that's part of the fun, right? I think that's really what I talk about, all these podcasts and the book is that it's, it's all about the journey. It's never about the destination. And if you're just open to that and then just willing to to see where it takes you, it's fucking fun, but you gotta be comfortable with that. And because there's a lot of unknown.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I struggled for a long time with the, getting over the notion of there is no finish line, especially in business. There may be a finish line in life, death, but in business, at least until you're out of the game, the process, the day to day is the thing you should be enjoying. I mean, that was a big mistake. I've talked about it on this podcast a lot. Is the previous business that I had, I was just in a race to get as big as I could, as fast as I could, just because I thought that there was some sort of mystical, magical, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like success. There's some easy street, like you just put in the monumental effort on the front end, and then on the back end, you're going to have a great time. And I wish, looking back now, I'm more fond of the process, the day-to-day stuff. So that's great. There's something you said in there, though. I'd love to know, like when you came out of that crash in the very beginning and you're a young guy, I relate to that a lot because I crashed my first business. What was that like? What was the big takeaway? I'm sure there was a lot of lessons, but what was your big takeaway there?
On the blowing up the
day
2 million
trading stuff. Yeah.
Well, it didn't come till later on, right? I think then it was like, fuck me. It's like, what do I do? Right. Cause I moved out of I spent my freshman year in dorms, and literally my freshman summer, I bought a fucking townhouse with like marble fireplace, 20-foot ceilings and fucking shit. So, I didn't pay cash for it though. I paid like 40% down. I had a like 12% crazy predatory loan mortgage. So I had expenses. So I already set off with, like, besides the gut punch of losing $2 million, and make it worse, it wasn't my money. It was money that was left to me from my dad. Like, you add that onto like additional stress. I didn't come from any money, right? Like, my mom would give me the shirt off her back, but she physically couldn't help me get through it. So now you got this hopelessness, desperateness. So you've got all this stuff that's going through. And I was in a dark place for a few days. But then, I didn't have a choice. And I think that's helped me throughout my life. And sometimes it's to a fault. I make myself get in against a wall because I perform better, with no net kind of. But yeah. So what did I learn? Fucking life sucks. I'm a loser. I fucking failed. And like, it was horrible for that fucking first period of time. It's fucking all over. Should fucking off myself and be done. Don't do that for fucking, put a number for, suicide prevention. But what I really learned was, later on in life, right? And I think not so far off either, right? At 22, I was back. I was living in New York City, fucking killing it, making, $300,000-$400,000 a year, which is fucking big money for a 22-year-old in Manhattan. I was just girls, bottle serve. I mean, I was like living that young New York life. But it was that evolution of losing it all and picking myself back up, 2.5 years later and making it again is what gave me the courage to go out and start on my own and make $6,000. I made $6,000 my first year in business, right? My rent was $8,000 a month, right? I would have never had the fucking balls to do that. If I wouldn't already had that confidence, like, fuck, dude, you've already fucking done it once. What the fucking worst could happen, right? So that was a big one. The other was humility, right? I mean, it wasn't a matter of if I would blow that money up. It could have been 2 million at 20. It could have been 20 million at 40, right? I was destined to get a fucking dose of medicine because you couldn't. Besides being a young kid, I couldn't be told anything anyway, like most 20-year-olds. But also with that much success. So it taught me, like, hey, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room and you've done learning, you should really look around because something's about to happen, right? And so it kind of taught me a little bit of that that piece of like really understanding and looking at the angles and being optimistic still, but cautious and guarded.
Yeah, no, that's good. You it's so funny to me. I feel that pain. There was a lot of wins. I mean, we were talking about my barbecue journey. We were in a tent on the side of the road. We were in a gas station. We were in a nice little Stonewall location. We ended up on a TV show and all these other things. And then I took one big bet at the very end, and every bet got a little bigger, and I kept winning. And so I just kept going more and more and more. And I was just day trading barbecue essentially is what I was doing. And then at the end, it all crashed. And when I looked back on it, it's the same exact story, just different sort of characters in it. Right. And it was my ego was out of control for me. I was just like, I'm the next savant business owner guy, and this just craziness. And like, I'm looking back now knowing I survived and, I'm on the upswing on this side of things. I'm glad I have the lessons, but getting them sucked. It was no fun.
No, well, it's never any fun going through it, but it's, that's where the magic happens. Right. So like, again, just fucking completely like advertising my book right now, but the subtitle of my book is Failing My Way to Success Effectively. I think it's like a memoir of unbound action and failing my way to success. And it's the failure piece that has such a misconnotation for most people that they look at the failure as the bad thing, but you are emphatically, and I don't even know what all you're doing. I know you're down there with Ramsey, who has and I money's philosophies are a little bit different, but former Ramsey, right? But I know that you are emphatically a much better business guy than you were then, right? And you wouldn't have been if you didn't go through that lesson, right? And are you married yet? Kids or anything?
Oh yeah, married. I was Air Force young, so we got married young, and we've got 2 kids now, so that's a whole other thing.
Nice, right? Okay, but how old are your kids?
5 and 1.
5 and 1. Okay, so do you had kids after the Lyles thing, or right during it?
So the first one came like right in the middle of it, and then the second one came last year, right after I started this new company. So yeah,
gotcha.
It's two new babies at the start of new companies. Very, very weird timing.
It's genius. Best time to do it. No. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like you have that, and you have that confidence. Like, hey, these are lessons I learned. But the cool thing is that you're always going to learn more lessons, and you're always going to have different failures. It's just how you look at them and frame them as a failure. I'm a big believer that, and I say this all the time when I'm speaking, there's nothing in life that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? I think life is merely a series of events. It's only the actions and emotions that we apply to those events that will later dictate whether they were good or bad. And it just, I've seen it so many times, right? Because you don't know, did it happen, to me or for me, right? I think that's another way you hear people talk about it.
I wonder if it's got anything to do with your perception on those things too, because it's like life's going to happen to you no matter what. And whether it's success or failure, when it's success, it's usually, I tend to try to find a way to bring other people in on that. Like it's the we that did this. And when it's a failure, I tend to try to find an internal reason why I sort of facilitated this and let it happen. Do you think about it the same sort of way from I think Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, coined it extreme ownership. Do you think about it in that way, or do you look at it differently?
No, I think so. Jocko's crazy. I love him. He's so yeah, I think I look at it the same way. And I think that's just any natural leader, right? I mean, and it's fucking true. It's not like it's a belief, but it's true. All of my success, all of it, is because of the team, right? I may have had a little bit of a vision. I may be able to kind of come and do a different take, but like I'm nowhere if I don't have the team behind me to help bring it all together, because I'm not a details guy. I'm a fucking make noise, go chaos, go through, but someone else behind me is picking up the pieces to go through. Okay, I think that's what he means, and then go from there. So I think it's all the team. And then at the same token, you are the boss. It's ultimately your responsibility, right? You don't have enough money to make payroll. It's fucking your problem. Like that's your responsibility, right? That's the relationship of being a leader, right? They're going to go and follow you because they've got confidence in you that you're going to make sure they're going to be taken care of, and that you're leading them down the right path from a mission component. And then when it's not, it's your fault. Like I don't think that's a belief system. I think it's binary. Like it's factually your fault. You didn't coach someone well. You missed something. You didn't go through. There's a wrong, like you just have to go through and do that. And if you're not that way inclined, I would argue you're definitely a fucking shitty leader. I would say you're probably not a leader at all.
Yeah. Bad boss is what we'd call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a leader. So when you're looking at investing in companies today through your business, like how much of those former experiences are you relying on? Are you using those to try to help and guide those new entrepreneurs that you're taking stakes in their businesses with, or do you sort of want them to explore their own journey on their own and you don't want to imprint too much on them?
Yeah, it's a delicate dance, and every one of them's different, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have the ability not to tell you my opinion, right? So I just don't have that filter. So I'm going to tell you this is what I would fucking do. But I'm better at saying like, this is what I think, or this is what, and this is why, and this is how I would see it. But I always start off every business, it used to be I would just buy 100% of it or take majority control and it didn't matter. Now I'm just I'm at a different point in my life. I like to be more higher level and mm-hmm. mission vision driven, and come in on board meetings and stuff. So I really try to make it happen and like go say, hey, listen, this is where I think would do it, but ultimately it's your decision. And these are the things, and I'll support whatever you want to do. And that's got to be genuine. It can't be like, I'll support you. And then like, fucking Chandler, I told you, bro, like you're an idiot, right? You can't do that. Like, all right, we missed, but okay, I could have been wrong. Like I could have been wrong as well. And doing that is good, but everyone's different. And then I always just ask, what do you need? And I won't invest with someone if you're not honest with that, right? Because, the business that, well, I've got it all figured out. I just need the money and I need nothing else. I'm not scared of anything. I've got it all. There's no threats to my business. They're either lying or naive. And I don't want to be part of either of them. Right. Yeah. But it's the one that says, dude, I can kill this, but I don't know how to fucking talk to people, or I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to market, or I can't balance my checkbook. Like, everyone has that problem. Like I have problems, right? But I hire and have people that work with me to do that shit because they're better at it and they like it, and I like doing what I like. So if someone's honest with me, that's all I need, and then I can really help them. Otherwise, it's on. And I think that's a big tip, maybe even for some of your entrepreneurs that are listening that are trying to raise money or trying to build a business, whatever. Be vulnerable, man. Like, just like I talk, curse, fucking, I do all this stuff, but I'll donate to church. I do a lot positively as well. We just donated our house for the Heart Ball last week, and it brought $30,000. Like, you can be a good person, just be authentic and just be who you are. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to like you. That's okay, right? But just be yourself and be vulnerable to be honest. Like, hey, I could use some help here. This is what I need. You're gonna you'll get what you actually need, right? And you'll get a much deeper relationship. And that's someone that because in raising capital and things, people are like, oh, I just need this money. And they've got so much money that, they don't care. Like, we're putting that money to work with you. We want to make sure it's used right. And that's where I think we can come in a lot and help oftentimes, is that they're raising this money to do something, to do a media campaign, to do, video, to do a new web dev, so we have all those shared services, right? Because I have all those people on my team, so we can help speed up those processes a lot. But I digressed quite a bit there, but I think
it's good because
that's the tip. You got to let them make the decisions, but give them the comfort to do it. But that comfort starts with vulnerability on both things. And that's where it also says, like, a lot of, we just did a deal. It was my quickest deal. It's in town. Next time you come up, you should check it out. We launched today officially. We were open 2 weeks ago, and finished. So there's a Tops magazine article coming out about it. This kid, he's mid-30s, engineer, pitched me the idea. First, it's like a tenant space for projected plans. So to be able to walk through plans, blueprints on a 1-to-1 scale. the idea came out of, it was on Shark Tank actually in Australia, $1 million franchise fee or something silly. It just didn't make sense. But I liked the idea. He didn't have a name for the company, ideas, whatever. That was before Christmas. 8 weeks later, we had deal docs signed, company funded, and you can go to the website now and see it's called walkthroughplans.com, THRU, walkthroughplans.com. And it's a 9,000 square foot studio, 4,000 square feet. You can walk through. I mean, it's so fucking cool. And we're so excited to launch it. But I killed myself. I called in every favor from every builder buddy, every contractor, used my black Amex to fucking buy the goddamn projectors. We did all this stuff to kind of get it through this move, get websites up, had a meeting with social strategy. And then I'm going to help him on, because I think there's a big part of the market that will be institutional or commercial. So like realtors, builders, architects, that they'll use it more so than, the one-offs. But like, I'm like, dude, guess what? I, taking a big chunk of the business, am going to be able to fast forward you, because I'm good at this stuff, 1 year. Like, I will do for you in 8 weeks what no one can do in a year. Mm-hmm. After that, a lot of my tricks are fucking over, right? Like, I mean, I've done that piece. Now we got to go through, and now you got to build that first little milestone, which is $1 million a year in revenue. It's after the big CapEx. So these projectors are expensive and all that, but after the big CapEx, it's a pretty decent business model. So you need to go do your shit. Go fucking make barbecue. Go do the thing. And then you're going to have a new layer of problems that you don't know about yet, but I do. Then I'll come back in and be like, oh, well, what do you think you should do? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's an option. Let's put that here. What about this, and this? And that's kind of the relationship I have. I don't want to be a fucking operator of these things, but I've just seen it. And I've been in business enough to know, like, business is business, right? So, yeah.
Oh, I say that all the time. It's 85% of business is the same. It's 15% that makes you whatever your unique industry is, whether it's a digital marketing agency or an investment firm or an accountant or walk through plans, right? It's business is business. We all have sales. We all have marketing. We all have HR. You might have some unique things, but we all got to figure it out. So what was it? I was actually going to ask about this. Like, what was it about that guy, or what was it about other deals that you're looking at from a partner standpoint? Is there a certain trait in those people you're looking for? Is it just a feeling? Is there a checklist you've got internally?
Well, this dude put up
this investors.
Yeah, I mean, this dude put up real money, right? I mean, it wasn't an inexpensive venture, but he put up real cash, right? So, and he's not a wealthy guy. He's hardworking, young, successful, and he put up real money. So, like, the fact that he was willing to do it on his own, he didn't come to me as like an investor. He came to me with an idea, and if I'm very confident if I didn't do it, he would still just be an idea. So I think I helped give him the confidence to push it over. But he put in his real money. Like, he put in real dollars. He's got a passion for it. He's got that work ethic, and sometimes you just know. I think that's it. Sometimes you just know, and that's cool. What I'm looking for now is just in businesses that I think are kind of cool, unique, and that can generate some kind of passive income. This is a model that I think we will either do franchise or distributorships across the country, because there's just a huge use case for it, right? I think we're charging like $1,300 or $1,400, $1,500 for a session, an hour session to go through. That's less than 1% of the cost of a major renovation, right? Or like that's less than the cost of half of a change order if you need to move a wall somewhere after construction. So there's a huge opportunity for it. And then the cool piece is that just putting down these blueprints, it's like driving a Bugatti to go to McDonald's drive-through. It's so overkill. But these projectors are 9,000 lumens 4K. So after 5 o'clock, there's another business that will spin up probably Q2 in the same space. Fundraisers, charity events, interactive. So think of like Van Gogh immersive experience. We can do that in our space. It's the same technology. It's the same technology. So you can do it for corporate events, corporate functions, all that stuff. So it's a really cool business that big CapEx, first to market is going to be crucial. And I think that's what we have. But yeah, and then it just, nice margin after that. So I'm looking for those type of passive investments to go through.
Yeah.
This AI play that I'm making is super big. But I've got a lot of those that don't work. Right. So there's just two different boxes of like, life-changing cool technology. And, we're going to do a very small segment in AI that's very drilled down. But that's what they say. The riches are in the niches. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can get something out.
Well, I know you're a big Kentucky fan. I can see the polo. If you're on the YouTube channel, you can see Jeremy's UK love there. I thought you were going to say the next businesses we're going to come in and we're going to watch the Kentucky basketball team play in HD on the floor of the walls and like crazy
You could do that.
45D experience.
you could do that.
That's the next move. So I gotta piggyback on that sort of segue there, and I gotta ask, like, so when you're meeting with people, and I know on your website you have different ways for people to connect with you and to get involved, like, but when you do end up having those meetings, 9 times out of 10, like, what's the thing that comes up that you're like, yeah, we got to get this solved first?
For like investments or just like, so I do like consulting as well, like
Yeah.
coaching. I mean, it just depends. I mean, most of the things, they have the wrong problem. Like what they think is the problem isn't the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 9 out of 10 times that's the case. So then it's just asking the question of like, well, what is it that you really want to do? And then, well, why, right? You see those people that annoyingly say why, like, 2 or 3 times. If you ask why, like more than, get to the third why, then you kind of know what the fuck's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard, right? Cause it's also, well, I got this problem with, I can't grow sales. Well, why? Well, I don't know. Just, nothing's working. Well, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm doing that. Like, so why not do that? So it's just digging into what the real crux of the issue is. And is it a sales problem? Is it a cost problem? And, going through from that perspective. So a lot of the times we're just in the consulting piece, we're just kind of being that sounding board and reframing it. Because when you're in a business and, right, you're talking, we talked offline a little bit, when you're, doing $1 million a year, $6 at a time for a sandwich, you fucking don't have time to look up to maybe think about, what could I bolt on to get my, I'm thinking cart. I'm saying average cart value, but what I'm saying, like your average ticket in your case. I'm thinking e-com, but to get your average ticket up, more. Okay, what do you don't think about that all the time. You often think, well, if I took 3 pickles instead of 2 or 2 pickles instead of 3, that gives my margin, an extra 3 cents, right? And then it's just a wrong thing to look at. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's impossible, right? I was just literally in a meeting right before this call, and like they've just got, well, we can't find people problem, but the people they're paying are paying way too much because they've got a bad, it's just simple shit to me. But kudos to them. They built $1 million a year business. It could be 5 million fucking immediately if they just get out of their own way, and we'll see. Right. And I could be wrong. I don't think I am on this case, but I could be wrong, but doing what you're doing now isn't going to change any of that.
Yeah. So when you're saying getting out of their own way, is that a them specific thing there? Or do you think most entrepreneur business owners just are, maybe they can't see their own issues or they're just too close to it? Is that what you're saying there?
Them for sure. It's part of their own way, because they I mean, they said the famous words like, well, this is how it's done. I'm like, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'm on to something, right? Because that's fucking, I do things the other way. Right. And then when those work, then you're really, then you've got something. So that's like I saw like, wow, there's actually a chance here to make some money if that's how it's always done. Cause then everyone else is playing that same game. But yeah, a lot of times it's, it's just that fear, and it goes back to the failure piece, right? It's the fear of this perception of, and it's a, I'll give you some spoiler alert to your listeners. Like, you are programmed to think, well, what are people going to think? And, what if I fail? What's the perception? And like, the spoiler alert is like, no one fucking cares about you. Like your wife, your mom, like your parent, like they care about you. No one gives a fuck about you. It could be interesting cocktail banter for a day, but then it's the next thing, right? So we have this component like, oh my God, like, dude, just have the confidence in yourself to go through. I mean, it's the death of so many probably great ideas, great businesses. They just never get started because we tell ourselves that what won't work and why it won't happen, right? So make the hire, start the business, go. And you don't have to have it all figured out. And I think there's even something to be said about not having it all figured out before you go in is better than trying to.
Well, I remember when we closed our restaurant there in Lexington, we made the paper. And so like whatever the food section was for the Herald Leader there, I think we were in that. And then after that, it just was over. And unless I randomly run across somebody from Lexington and they find out like, oh, were you the barbie? Like it doesn't come up anymore. And so you're 100% right. Nobody cares about
but you, for a while, you're going at a restaurant, you're going like fucking at the grocery store and Whole Foods, like, oh fuck, here's the guy. Like, no, you don't fucking care. They don't know. Like, but I've been through those things too.
Yeah, it's not even it's not even that they're bad people for not caring. They're just so busy with their own stuff. Like, think about all the things that you have going on in your own life. Like, how much bandwidth do you have to think about other people? You know, you have to actively try and think about other people a lot of times.
Exactly. So, but that's where the shame comes in. That's where the fear of failure is. Like, it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to hate myself if I fail. It's this perception of like, what are people going to think? That's the outward component. And that's a piece of like, be comfortable with yourself. And if you do fail, okay, what'd you learn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do something different, pivot, like go through.
You posted something on your Instagram that I thought was interesting. That's sort of in this same vein a couple of days ago. And it was about, the old adage is like burn the boats, go all in. But you also said like, even if you can't, like still take action and move forward. Is that what you're sort of unpacking here? Is that, you know, when you know what you need to do, like have a bias towards action, make the thing happen, go out and do? Or do you think there's some, like, do you think people just get in their way with planning or just lack of self-awareness? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's action, right? I mean, I think planning is, and, you brought this up, so I'll bring it up too on the book. But like, I wrote a book that says without a plan, and then on my website I've got a 1-page plan. So fucking contradictory. I'm not a plan or detail guy at all. I'm a vision. Like, hey, we want to go down. You know what's going to be, and I'll tell you that the AI deal is going to be 1-to-1. You know, emotionally intelligent AI at scale. So I could be able to talk to and interact with, you know, 50,000 humans on a 1-to-1 basis, feeling live with probably 10 people in a week. It's fucking scary, but cool. That's what we want to do. I don't know. That's why I'm not the AI guy. I got a fucking team of people that are doing this shit. How the fuck it's all going to work out. But that's what we want to do. That's the problem that we want to solve. So we have to start taking a step to solve it. That's conversation that's going through and going. So I am a sicko and need my back against the wall to fucking really feel it. Like I need the pressure to fucking really kind of come out and shine. That's why when I build business, sometimes I'll break them just to kind of have a challenge, right? So I've got a lot of issues. Most people aren't like me, or maybe like you, where you have to go all in like that. But do something that makes you uncomfortable. Right. So I left a multi-6-figure a year job, which is more than both my parents were making, to go start a new company. I needed that. I needed that fucking no net level to be able to say failure wasn't an option. Just like me losing the money, failure wasn't an option. I'm not advocating, if you're not the same way masochistic as I am, that you should go and do that. But do something. And whether that is you've got an idea, you don't have to go and quit your job. You don't have to put your mortgage a house and put it all in prototypes. You could do it a focus group, right? That's a big thing. Like, what does other people want to think about it? You know, social media is the biggest focus group you can get, right? This is my idea. This is my concept. What do you think? Ask 10 people. Try and offer this. Just make those steps that just feel you, where you feel a little nervous, and then go through. It's not going to kill you, but then now you made that first step. What happened? It either worked or it didn't. If it worked, make another fucking step. If it didn't work, reflect back. What went wrong? Make another step, right? And if you have those series of just making those steps forward, you'll get to where you're going. And you may not know, and that's the point about planning, is that, you know, I talk about the story in the book. I had a window and door manufacturing business that we had a factory in Germany, a factory in Italy. We did like Calvin Klein's house, all those, like a lot of really cool stuff. We started in a retail window business. If I would have fucking made a plan, I would have made a plan to be the best retail window guy in the fucking world. and it would have been a shitty fucking business. I mean, we did a multi-million-dollar business, but it would not have been what it became. It was my lack of understanding of where we were going to end up by just peeling back that onion that made it much bigger. So sometimes making this plan, it could be the wrong plan. And where you think you want to go, what if you could go so much farther, right? And you're putting on these limits into yourself.
What's your thought process on taking bets, right? So you got a little bit of risk taker in you. Obviously started as the day trader and then and now you're investing in small businesses, which the SBA tells us fail sort of a spectacular rate. Is it when you're testing and you're trying things out? Like I have a limit. The big rule I have that we talk about at High Beam all the time is, don't bankrupt the brand, don't bankrupt the business. Everything else is we can Monday morning quarterback and fix. But everything else is testable within those two parameters. And so do you ever take bets that could potentially bankrupt the business financially or reputationally because you think it might work? I mean, any of them, just in general, it's like a general business philosophy. Or do you always try to have some back? Like it's like going all in poker. If you don't win, then you're out, right?
On businesses that I'm investing in, I wouldn't do it, right? Like if it's other people's money, I think that's a clarity point. I play with my money and other people's money totally differently, right? My money, yeah. I mean, we had a digital media brand. This is back before fucking Zuckerberg and Cambridge Analytica fucked up everything. But when you could actually have data and do social media advertising, we were doing about $1 million a month in ad spend. And those were the glory days, right? I don't know if you were doing anything back then, but it used to be $1 in, $4 out. It's like fucking, it's just ATM. But on those pieces, even in that day, not every product worked. So we had a $20,000 limit, right? That we would prototype up something, small batch it, throw a site up, launch it, put 10 grand in ad spend over 2 months. And it worked out every time to be around $20,000. And then we set failure or success. And if we didn't have a certain level of IRR or internal rate of return, we killed it. So that wasn't really a business. It was a product, but that's consciously going in. Like I'm going to put $20,000 in and it's fucking, I don't know. It could be the greatest thing ever, but the market doesn't receive it. It's going to be, it works or it doesn't work. And that was a good rule that we kind of killed it. Cause sometimes if you don't, and it becomes your baby and sometimes your baby's ugly, that 20 grand can turn into 200 real quick. Right. So we just put like, hey, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. I do want to push back. I think we're averaging for clients, like a little High Beam plug here, like a 6x return on ad spend right now for people. So you can still do it. You just got to know the fancy new buttons. But you're right. Back in the day when I was running ads and I didn't know what I was doing, you basically could just point and shoot and just print money. And the level of sophistication on an ad buying standpoint now is insane. Like I got 2 guys on my team that's all they do, and it's the way they talk, it spins circles around me. They're great. And, but it's back to your point earlier about putting the right people on the team and then, all of us agreeing on values and then all of us also agreeing on what bets are we willing to take together as a team. And we put a plan together. I wish I'd have known about you and your 1-page plan back then, but I really liked it. I was doing some research for this episode and you start off at the very top of the page with vision. And I know you're a big vision guy, but unpack to us, what is vision to you? Because that's a big word that a lot of people use differently, I think, depending on which book you pick up. But like, what is vision to you, and why do you lead off with that when you're planning a business out?
Yeah, and I will plug, so I got this from, I sold an animal health company I bought and sold it several times, took it public, private, et cetera. But the company that it's setting with now is a small little, I won't even call them PE, more VC PE. Very big family office, $500 million or something. And that's who I ended up selling it to him. And they had this philosophy that they took in one of their businesses from aerospace. And I was like, I sold out 60%. So I was still a big shareholder. And, like, yeah, sure, we'll use your fucking stupid tools if you want to use them. So the tool actually originated from them, but it's so good that I actually consulted with them for many years of using it for other businesses. So, so it wasn't completely my idea. So I want to preface with that. but it's worked so many times. And the concept is so good because so many people put these business plans together that are, advanced models with different assumptions, and there's 150 pages. No one looks at them, including guys, the fucking venture capital guys. No one fucking looks at those whole things, right? We wait for a good slide deck, and then if it's an interesting industry, we'll take a meeting, and then we give it to the analysts to go through all the shit that you put in this business plan. But no one on our side looks at it, nor on after it's done and you get the money, does the business. So you hear that whole component of like, hey, how do we get on the same page? This is a tool that, and there's all those different strategic directives and strategic initiatives that you can get everyone from C-level execs to warehouse people on the same board. And this is what we're kind of working towards. So that is the document. The vision is, that bigger approach, right? Of like how we see the world and the business, and it fits into the world, right? I think that's how I look at vision. Mission is how you're going to affect it, right? Does that make sense? So the mission is a little more strategic on like, we are planning on, we're doing it this way for this reason, but it's anchored into what the vision is, right? So, if it's a healthcare company, the vision is just to be able to lead, heightened health and experience for all. Like that's the bigger idea, where mission is more drilled down version from the vision to how your business impacts that.
I got it. Yeah, that's great. And then you break it down from there. I got it written out over here. You said it just a second ago, the strategic deployment initiatives. Is there a specific bucket that we should be looking at when we're planning? Because I love to do planning for the business every year. Just sort of gets everybody back on the same page, make sure we're still rowing in the right direction. And, COVID or AI, like these market disruptors come in, like let's make sure our simple business plan still gets us in the right direction. But what is a strategic initiative, and is that a specific bucket, or is it just business dependent?
No, they're all the same. So they should be on the form, but I think the first one is like sales or revenue. The second one is innovation. It's like a fucking test. I'm fucking failing. Second one, innovation or R&D.
Yeah.
Then the very last one is great GPTW, which is a great place to work.
I was going to ask what that meant, because I was like, I could not figure out that acronym.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Yeah, so GPTW is a great place to work.
What do we do to make a culture? Yeah, love that.
Yeah, culture, customer service or customer success. That's 4. What's the 5th one?
Financial, customer delight, innovation, productivity, and the GP.
Productivity is the one I was mentioning. Yeah. So the financial, those are the main tranches that you have. And then under financials, that's where it's business dependent, right? It's but they have to be specific, right? So those SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, actionable. So it could be to grow revenue, so an example of what wouldn't go in that box, and you only put 4 or 5 in the box under financial, would be, get $10 million a year in revenue. Okay. Well, why, how, right? Going through that. And you're just kind of boiling down into those bigger thoughts, but it is an annualized basis. But then you have a monthly component to it. So the idea is that I have a bunch of companies and I don't have time to set through fucking 8-hour board meetings for all of them. So this is a tool that goes through, and I do this in my whole consulting program, that you can really drill down into it, but it takes down weekly stand-ups between management and departments, and how are we tracking, and it's thumbs up, thumbs down. Then that builds into going through. So if revenue is green, what the fuck we have to talk about? Cool. It's done. Like, I don't want to, I want to focus on yellows and reds, right? And those are the ones, like, that's where you go through. So now you feel good. Like, hey, that's the whole business on a little, looks like what are those things called? Like a bingo sheet, right? That's all good. All the greens are good. We got 4 reds and 2 yellows. That's where we will spend our hour understanding what's going on.
That's good.
So it's just hyper efficiency.
Yeah. So my last question here, and then I'll let you go. I know you get a busy man, and this one is a selfish one. So for me, the big vision for High Beam is that, I had the barbecue restaurant back in the day, and I realized that marketing and sales was a big problem for a lot of business owners out there. And so I went and tried to learn the craft of marketing, went really deep in it, started this agency. So that's like the core engine, right? And so my big goal is to go out and buy these businesses and connect it. And so you have the high beam marketing engine at the middle, and then you're buying the businesses. Somebody that goes out and buys their first business, and they're not going to be necessarily running the day to day. Like, what is your sort of 2, 3, 4 minute advice for that person? Because I know you could probably write a whole book on it at this point, and I need to pick up Without a Plan, so we'll have you back on for that recap. But yeah, advice for me specifically on going out and buying the first business. Like, what do you wish you knew then that you know now?
Yeah. So there's a course you should take. He's a friend of mine, Roland Frazier. Have you ran across him at all?
Yeah.
Roland's one of those guys that are just fucking annoyingly smart.
Yeah.
But he does nothing but come up with great ideas, but he partners so well. I mean, he's good. And this is a true case study. He became, and this is how he did it. Not dissimilar to you in the marketing. So I was in a high-end mastermind, which is War Room. It's like $30,000 a year. I was in it for 5 years. They just disbanded. Now they're doing something with Damon John and a different group, but we're all in the same little fucking club, right? Yeah. And there's different masterminds. Roland signed up as a member for 25 grand. This is like probably 8-10 years ago as a member, infiltrated and basically said, hey guys, I should probably help you because I'm a lawyer and I'm kind of good at business and I've got some ideas, and became like this advisor, consulted for equity, got a piece of the business and for nothing, paid to get in, got equity for nothing, added a ton of value. And they built, so if you're a digital marketing guy, so you know who digital marketer, you know Ryan Dice, you know all those are like Perry Belcher, those are all my boy. So, they just sold. So digital marketer is now fucking what they call it now.
They're doing like the whole. I know they have a product called CEO Dashboard that I see all the time. I'm trying to think of the name.
Yeah, Scalable.io. So they changed it to this. Yeah. But they had traffic and conversion, biggest digital marketing summit in the world, right? Started in San Diego, and then they sold DMHQ, which is like all their like marketing funnel pieces, whatever, not funnels, but they're just like marketing tactics. Fucking Roland earned his money, right? Perry bought a Rolls Royce. Ryan's a little bit less toned down, but they sold just the business of the conference to Clarion for a big number. I won't say how much, but I can tell you that it was of Clarion, who buys up all these conferences. It was the highest multiple on EBIT they'd ever paid for a conference. They did that right before fucking COVID, so it was a pretty good trick. But anyway, so good for them, maybe bad for Clarion, but I don't think they're hurting for money. But Roland is really good at this, and it's all about the approach. So I think he has like this epic challenge. He's got founders, he's got a lot of different things that he goes through. I've not taken any of the courses, but the concept is pretty simple. It's not simple, but it's what's a business worth, right? And you go to these medium, small businesses, if they're just everything's done, and so many businesses don't operate. Like you ask them like, hey, can you go on vacation for a month and then will the business be there? If most people, they say it won't be, you don't have a business. You've got like a really high paying job, right? So it's getting them understanding to like, hey, what's it really kind of worth? And do you want to sell? Are they able? And then are you buying 100% of the business? Are you buying a percentage of the business? Yeah. And then terming it out. But man, bring me deal flow. I'll buy them with you. I'm fucking good at it. But the way to do it is really setting up the expectation, because it's got to be a win-win. Yeah. But you have to just be honest and realistic. And the other piece, so and a lot of this comes from leverage, and usually you don't want to target any businesses less than $1 million in EBIT. But you want to have the business kind of, carry back and have the seller carry a note for a good chunk of it.
Why
so
do
you
got
to come
up
with
number,
some cash. But
the $1 million in EBIT, why are you picking that? Like what's the reasoning behind
to carry debt service? Because most of the deals that if I'm not buying it straight out, or if it's not a funding NewCo, we will have the owner. We'll have the owner carry a good chunk of the note. And that's good for us on the acquisition, because now more of our money can go into growing the business, which is good insurance for him, because now it's going to be worth more, because if we don't pay the note, then they can repossess it, that's a good security for the business. And also, you don't want, from a guy that's had some pretty big exits, you don't want all that money up front, right? Like you don't want a big chunk, because all this is a fucking tax bill, as opposed to like, hey, let us piece it out over time and then show you how to invest and keep more of it with upside. So there's an art in the structure, but it's just about keeping things explained on how it goes.
Do you have any thoughts on like roll ups? Like, so that's another way I've thought through is like, you know, we've got this marketing company, you know, we're doing what we're doing. And then instead of like just going the slow route of selling, you know, clients one-to-one over the next 24, 36 months, like going out and actually acquiring other agencies and just rolling them up. Do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think culturally that could be problematic? Because that's my big worry is that you connect yourself to all these bad cultures.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, the agency world's changing now. I mean, I don't know how much. I mean, I'm sure if you're not.
AI is going to put us all out of business. I think at some point.
Well, so not even AI, but fucking like Zuckerberg got fucking smashed for all the data that Facebook has. Facebook has got shit on you. You know who got shit on you? Google.
Yeah.
Right. This is a study. Google in 2016, 17 published, told a woman she was pregnant before she knew she was fucking pregnant. Mm-hmm. In 2017, all on search intention, history, and browsing. In 2017, AI is improving at doubling in improvements every 6 months. Mm-hmm. So what the fuck can it tell you now? So it's got, I think Facebook has 45,000 or 60,000 data points. Mm-hmm. Google has 900,000. So with Performance Max, it basically puts all the things in, because now Google's not just Google. Google's YouTube. Google's so many different things that you plug in that you want to sell Burt's Beeswax, whatever. And you think, because we're all smart marketers, you're smarter than me. Oh, well, a high network demographic males buy this, and you think all your fucking shit. And like, that's who it is. And they know that it's people that like sailing, mm-hmm. right? And are avid sailors because they're out in the sun so much more, whatever. Mm-hmm. So they basically, so Performance Max now is putting out, so instead of you kind of choosing your demographic, basically they're saying, cool, that's cute, kid. Just give me your money and we will fucking allocate spend for you. Mm-hmm. So yes, agencies are there's going to be massive consolidation, but it's tough. Now, good news is that's Google, right? Which has a big part of the market, but you do have Facebook and IG and all these other pieces, but it's, and then AI, it's all coming.
I was about to say, so and then we're going to see what happens to Google search with Bing basically releasing the answer killer with the Chat GPT combo. Cause now they don't, they don't need to make
Bing
money.
Bing has no market share. Like
well, they're
the market share. Huh?
No, they don't. They're up to 10% now, I think was the last number we saw, but you do.
That's a lie. They say that the only reason they actually propagate that is that it helps keep away the antitrust lawsuits of Google. But like there's like Google has 97% of the fucking money. Yeah. So Google's like, yeah, sure, yeah, 10%, that's fine. Yeah, whatever you think.
That's so funny. Jeremy, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate all you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.